Welcome to the Crohn's Fitness Food Podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Gish. I've been navigating Crohn's disease since my first symptoms in 2003 and IgA nephropathy since 2021. But now I'm about to do it all while living on a boat and traveling around the Caribbean Sea and Atlantic Ocean. Join me on our travels as I continue to search for better health through mindfulness, fitness, medications, adventures, and so much more. And if you want to join me and my husband Jeff on our boating adventures, follow us on our YouTube channel, Offshore Gishing. Well, hey everyone, thanks for joining me again. So today I wanted to talk about colonoscopy prep. Over this past weekend, I had my 10th colonoscopy, and spoiler alert, everything went really well. The results showed no inflammation, so I'm clearly in remission and the medications are working great. So I wanted to share some tips and insights into what I experienced on this 10th colonoscopy of mine. So, as many of you know, there are a variety of different preps that you can do for a colonoscopy. The one I always seem to get, and I don't know if it's because it's the cheapest or I've heard that it's the safest for most people. So I get the Go Lightly prep. Go Lightly is the brand name. The generic name, I think it's something like PEG 3350 with electrolytes. It's basically a 1-gallon jug of Miralax. So if you're like me and you get the 1-gallon jug of colonoscopy prep, there's a couple of things that I do that help to make it more palatable, if that is even possible. So 2 days before the prep, I was told to eat lighter foods. So I did go ahead and do that. And I always skip breakfast every day. So at noon, I had a bagel with some butter and some scrambled eggs. Later in the day, I had a Nature's Bakery fig bar in the afternoon. And then for dinner, I kind of just ate random stuff. So I had a little cup of microwave macaroni and cheese. And then I had a protein shake, followed by another bagel. So I was really trying to keep things light without a whole lot of fiber, definitely no red meat, nothing real heavy. And that was 2 days before. So then the day before, which was a Sunday for me, that was the clear liquid diet day, no food. And I always start, years ago, I switched from drinking coffee to green tea or black tea. And I did that because I was having so many coughing fits, like I mentioned in my last episode. So I thought maybe I would try drinking tea instead of coffee to see if it would help with the reflux. Anyways, I've really grown to like tea. So luckily, tea and black coffee are fine on the clear liquid diet. So I woke up, I had my black tea. Actually, I think I drank green tea that day with a little touch of honey, and that was it for the morning. And then I drank lots of water throughout the day. And then at 4 p.m., I mixed up my Go Lightly, the jug of prep, and I put 2 packs of Crystal Light in there. 2 packs because I think they were the big packs, and they make 1 pack makes 2 quarts, 4 quarts in a gallon, so I used 2 of those big packs. So I did go ahead and put the lemonade into the jug, just directly mixed it in with the prep. Then I chilled it for an hour, and then at 5 p.m. is when I started drinking the prep. In addition to that, my instructions were to have 2 Dulcolax tablets before bed on Saturday night, and then 2 more tablets at noon Sunday. So things were already starting by the time I drank the prep. One thing that I had been told or read in the past was that when you use a straw to drink the prep, it actually makes it more palatable. It makes it go down smoother. I think perhaps maybe it doesn't hit so many of your taste buds. Anyways, I find it much easier to drink if I'm using a straw. So I just use like a big wide mouth straw because I still want to try and drink it fast as possible. So I started that at 5, and I was drinking 1 glass every 12 minutes. In the past, I've been told to have 8 ounces every 10 to 15 minutes. My instructions this time said 1 glass every 20 to 30 minutes, and that I could slow down if I felt like the rate was too much. But it's worked well in the past for me. And I've also noticed in the past that drinking that 8 ounces can sometimes take 5 minutes just to drink that bit of prep, because it's so, especially the more you drink it, the more disgusting and the harder it is to drink. So I chose an interval of 12 minutes. So I would drink my 8 ounces of prep, set the timer for 12 minutes, and then start drinking again. And because it took about 5 minutes to drink each glass of prep, I probably averaged 1 glass every 15 to 20 minutes. So that was my prep schedule, and I did well with it. It was tasting fine. It actually wasn't as bad as I remembered until I drank the last glass of that first half gallon, the first half of the prep that I had to drink. By the time I got to that last glass, it was really disgusting. And part of it is, I think it's just because you're drinking so much fluid in such a short amount of time and you haven't had anything else to eat all day. So I got really nauseous once I finished off that last glass. Luckily, it was the last glass, and then I continued through the night near the bathroom, which is quite important to be near the bathroom when you're drinking the prep. So that went fine. The only problem for me was that I normally like to do an afternoon colonoscopy because that means I can sleep in a little bit and then finish the prep. But when they called me about a week before, they told me my afternoon colonoscopy got changed to a morning colonoscopy. So it didn't really change my prep other than the fact that I had to wake up at 2 a.m. to finish drinking that second half of the prep. So I got up at 2 a.m., which was really early, and I'd only gone to sleep at about midnight, so I only took a 2-hour nap. So I got up and I started drinking the second half of the prep, which was fine. I didn't get as nauseous as I did the night before, so that went easy. Prep went perfect. And then finally I got to the hospital, which was wonderful because then I could rest and lay down and sleep, and they gave me the nice IV and the drugs that made me not remember anything. So the colonoscopy itself went great. As I mentioned, it looks like I'm in remission. There was no sign of disease activity. The only thing they did find was that I have diverticulosis pretty much throughout my entire colon. So they gave me a little pamphlet about diverticular disease. What I didn't realize is that you can have diverticulosis. It's only diverticulitis once it becomes inflamed and infected, the pouches that are created in your colon, which is the diverticular disease. So the instructions they gave me was that I need to eat more fiber. Fiber is supposed to help the diverticular diseases. So that's my new goal. I'm going to be trying to get more fiber into my diet because I do recognize that I eat the same things every day and I do not get a lot of fiber. So I'm going to try to start eating more beans and lentils, and I'll start there, see how far that gets me. And then I'm also going to start having some chia seeds. I'll probably put those in my protein shake. Now, if my sister-in-law is listening, I'm sorry. I know you told me to eat chia seeds like a year ago and told me all about the magical benefits of chia seeds, and I believed you. I just never put them into my diet, but I am going to now. So I have more chia seeds that I will be determined to put into my protein shakes and determined to eat/drink every day to try and increase my fiber intake. So back to the colonoscopy. Woke up, everything was fine. I tried to ease back into food, so I came home and I had a little bit of chicken noodle soup, and then I think I had a protein shake later that day, and then by the evening, I was getting back into eating my regular foods. Of course, the next day I was feeling perfectly great and back to doing a workout and whatever food I wanted to eat. So everything was good, and that was probably, as far as preps go, it went really well, other than the nausea on that first night. So as I said, diverticulosis is what I need to try and focus on right now. They did do 8 biopsies that they sent off to pathology, so there's always a chance that those could show something, but I'm pretty positive those are going to come back clear just because everything looked so good on the rest of the colonoscopy. So I'll keep taking my medications because I seem to be doing really well on the Humira, Hadlima, which is what I'm taking, the biosimilar. So I'll keep doing that. I'm going to start eating more oatmeal. I like making the overnight oats, so that's a good source of a little bit of fiber. So I'll bring the overnight oats back into my diet, the beans, maybe some lentils. Not sure what the difference is, to be honest, beans versus a lentil, but I'll try to bring in some of those to my diet more regularly, and chia seeds. And I'm going to start there. That should get me a pretty good amount of fiber before I have to start adding in the Metamucil drinks and everything else. I don't eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, so the fiber is a little bit hard for me, and I get stuck in a rut of what I eat. So I've got to think outside the box and try to incorporate some different foods. And I don't like to cook, so I need to find stuff that's easy and that I can make ahead of time and then reheat. So aside from that, I think my biggest hack for an easy colonoscopy prep is intermittent fasting. I have been fasting for many, many years now. And when I first started fasting, I thought it was the hardest thing in the world to do because I thought, okay, I'll wake up and then I just won't eat for a day and that'll be super easy. And then about 6 hours in, I was starving and I couldn't do it, and I thought it was the most impossible thing in the world, and I gave up and I didn't come back to it again for years. But eventually I did return to intermittent fasting because of all of the health benefits that were touted by doing it that I had been reading online. So I decided to give it a try again, and this time I did it gradually. So when I started the intermittent fasting years ago, I forget exactly how many years ago, but I started by just pushing back breakfast by an hour or 2 hours. And then once that felt normal, then I pushed it back a little bit more. And once that felt easy, then I pushed it back more until finally I had an 8-hour window of which I was eating my food, and then the rest of the time, the 16 hours in the day that I was not eating, only drinking water, and then sleeping. Because my window now is pretty much 2 p.m. is when I have my first meal, so 8 hours means I can eat until 10 p.m., which I don't like to eat that late because it disrupts my sleep. So I'll probably stop snacking around 9 p.m. Maybe I have a glass of wine and that takes me to 10 p.m. But then I go to sleep, and then I'm sleeping for a good chunk of that next 16 hours, wake up, I have my tea in the morning, and then at 2 I start eating again. But doing the intermittent fasting, because I've been doing it for so long, it's so easy to just skip a meal. And I don't even do longer fasts anymore. I used to do, years ago, it's now 2026, so maybe 2018, 2019, I used to do 48-hour, 50, 60-hour fasts. But I don't do those anymore, so I haven't done those in years. I just do the 16-8. And doing the clear liquid day on the prep is so much easier when you're used to fasting. Because otherwise, you spend that whole day just focused on what you can't eat because you're supposed to be drinking clear liquids only. So that's my biggest hack. If you think that intermittent fasting is a good fit for your lifestyle and is something you want to give a try, then the next time you have a colonoscopy, whether it's your first or your 10th, it'll be so much easier because you're going to be used to not eating. So maybe that's enough reason to try intermittent fasting, maybe not, but I think that's my biggest hack, is the intermittent fasting and the drinking through a straw and the using Crystal Light lemonade to mix if you have the Go Lightly, if you have the big gallon jug. There's really not a whole lot you can do to make a prep palatable or enjoyable. I wouldn't go so far as to say that, but those things do make it a bit easier. Now, if you haven't had one yet, if you're facing your first colonoscopy, one of the things that I find is most helpful, not just for colonoscopies, but a lot of things in general, is just the mindset and knowing what to expect. So now that I've had 10 of these, I pretty much know exactly what to expect. And it makes it so much easier because you know what's ahead. You're not wondering exactly what's going to happen when you drink that prep or when you get to the hospital. So the mindset, if you can hopefully take some tips away from this and talk to other people who have had colonoscopies before, then you're going to have a good idea of what to expect. And hopefully it will make it easier when you do your first one. Other than that, it's funny, even though I've had 10 of these, every time I do the colonoscopy prep, I feel like I'm going to do it wrong. I always feel like, what if I accidentally forget what day it is and I suddenly start eating? Or I triple check to make sure that what liquid I'm drinking is a clear liquid. And I always over obsess about what I'm doing, but everything always works out great and it goes smoothly and it all turns out fine. So those are my big colonoscopy tips for you today. Hopefully you find this helpful for your next one, whether it's your first or your 10th. And if you have any comments or stories about your colonoscopies or preps or tips that you have, please, I invite you to share those in the comments so that other people can read those and know what's ahead for them when they do their colonoscopy. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for being here with me and for coming along with me on this journey. Thanks so much, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. Thank you for listening and coming along with me on this journey for better health. Please subscribe to get the latest episodes as they come out, and I hope you'll follow more of my adventures with my husband Jeff on our YouTube channel, Offshore Gishing.